Welcome to Coffee Break with Rachel Vigil, taking a daily look at the biggest stories in Denver sports and interacting live with you, the Coffee Break fam. So sit back, relax, grab a cup of joe, and enjoy your coffee break. Here's your host, Rachel Vigil.
With the Nuggets and Avalanche season abruptly coming to an end, that means all eyes are on the Denver Broncos. And luckily, the rookies and the veterans reported for OTAs this week. And on Thursday, today, we get to go, in fact, see them work out. And I'm very excited. And there's one person who can talk about this because I believe he's already seen Bo Nix, which I'm really excited to see what he's able to do. But that is our very own Andrew Mason. What's up, my friend? How are you?
I'm great, Rachel. How are you?
I am good. I am so excited to go see Bo Nix. And of course, everybody's talking about his, doesn't have the arm strength, but he does have some, really nice power throws, etc. You saw him already for one day. Was it a week ago, 2 weeks ago? I was out busy with Avs and Nuggets, but what'd you think of the QB?
Yeah, saw him 12 days ago out at rookie minicamp. And what I thought of him boiled down to this. He was able to run the Sean Payton offense. And what I'm talking about is you're seeing stuff intermediate across the middle, the passes down the seam, they're back. It looked like what we had seen from Sean Payton in New Orleans for the 16 years he was there, which kind of shows you last year how much he did change to account for Russell Wilson and try to maximize him. But then you saw Jarrett Stidham in there those last two games, and you started seeing, the slants, the crosses, plays down the seam, and that all and that was extended going into rookie minicamp. So that it was kind of the exciting thing to actually say, okay, now we're starting to see what you brought Sean Payton here to bring. And then the next step is developing the quarterback who can actually run that effectively.
Well, okay, so let's just talk about, I feel always weird, Mace, because I know people are over the Russell Wilson situation, but I feel like it's such an important benchmark in Sean Payton's career for this point, because there was so much talk about Sean Payton didn't adjust the offense for Russell Wilson. That's why he failed. But it's actually I think this year is really going to prove just how much he did change the offense from what he typically did to try and work with Russell Wilson.
Yeah. And I mean, there were attempts made to see, okay, can he execute these concepts? That's what a lot of OTAs and training camp were about last year. And eventually it comes to a point where, and I think we really saw it as you got into October and November, when at that point, Russell Wilson was on borrowed time, but very much like, okay, how do we maximize this with what we have at quarterback? And you had some good luck on the defensive side with good fumble luck in particular during that 5-game winning streak. But you did start to win some games. Now, we can debate the long-term wisdom of winning those games because of what it did in draft position and what it might have cost them in terms of standing pat at the deadline rather than selling at the trade deadline. But what it also tells you is, Sean Payton's going to try to maximize what he's got with every team, period. Like he doesn't have that instinct to tank.
Yeah.
So if they have a bad year, it's because the team was bad. It's not because they were trying to run this thing into the ground. Like that's not going to happen. He's going to try to. He's kind of like John Fox, a coach that he coached with back with the New York Giants in the early 2000s when they were on Jim Fossil's staff, and that he's going to look around and say, "How do I maximize this crew that I have right now?" And that meant kind of pulling back the reins on Russell Wilson, but you still had the frustration for Sean Payton because of how many sacks Russell Wilson was taking and how culpable Wilson was in a majority of those sacks.
100%. So I don't think this Bo Nix offense is going to be, super exciting, but it may be consistent and result in touchdowns. And at the end of the day, that's all Broncos country should want.
Yeah, consistent. And that's a key thing. When you have a high sack rate, you're, instead of operating in 3rd and 4, which this offense is designed to keep on chugging third and 4 to set up short, quick options that move the chains.
Yeah.
That's when this thing is really humming, that it's mounting some 10, 12 play drives, and there are a lot of short passes involved. Short passes, kind of like runs, like the glimpses we see of it. For example, you look at Samaje Perine having 50 catches last year, right? That's that's the kind of thing you expect from a running back in a Sean Payton offense. So there were some elements of it. I think this year we see maybe not the whole meal because Bo Nix is a rookie and is going to be learning things concept by concept, but we start seeing elements of it. We'll see some main course type stuff this year. And I think it's true whether it's Bo Nix, Jarrett Stidham, or Zach Wilson, whoever starts week 1, I think we'll see the Sean Payton offense.
I think it's going to be fascinating today to be able to see, okay, how does it look between Jarrett Stidham, Zach Wilson, and Bo Nix, and how far off does Bo Nix seem from somebody like Zach Wilson? Like, it's going to be very interesting, just the minute details when it comes to that.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said Zach Wilson, because I expect Jarrett Stidham's probably going to look the most put together of the trio just because he was in this scheme last year and he's got the most he's got the largest base from which to work.
Yep.
So the question is, you have Bo Nix and you have Zach Wilson, who catches up quickly. And if Bo Nix is already where Zach Wilson is, then I mean that's kind of a huge sign, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because even though Zach Wilson, not a good quarterback when he started last year, still somebody who's been in the NFL for 3 years, has learned how to digest an NFL playbook. Bo, to his credit, had 5 different play callers in college, and he's learned a lot of schemes.
Yeah.
But pro schemes are more complex than college schemes. Some of that is simply because if you're in the pros, you don't have classes, you don't have other things. You can focus on football, so you're expected to ingest more. So kind of where does Bo Nix go in this regard? Now, one of the reasons why the Broncos drafted him is that they liked his ability to quickly ingest, assimilate, process, and apply information. That was something that they learned when they worked him out. They sent him all the information the night before, and how quickly he picked it up. So they expect he's going to be able to grasp it, but even with the processor that Bo Nix has, the football brain that Bo Nix has, you have to expect it's going to take a little bit of time just in the transition.
No, for sure. And obviously, like you said, Zach Wilson's been in the league for a little bit, but I think if Bo Nix is right there with Zach Wilson, then Zach Wilson was the emergency scapegoat just in case they didn't get a quarterback in the draft. Like the timing of when they brought in Zach Wilson, I was already like, okay, what's going on? You either don't think you're going to get a quarterback or you don't think you're going to get the right quarterback in this draft and somebody that's going to need an extra year. Otherwise, I don't understand why you trade him. And I know they did it for hardly nothing, so it didn't hurt to add him. But I do just think that it was like, okay, just in case we can't get the quarterback we want, we can see if we can develop this young guy.
Well, in that instance, think of how a quarterback room of Jarrett Stidham, Zach Wilson, and Spencer Rattler would have been received.
True.
Because that's probably what it would have been if they had not gotten Bo Nix.
Oh boy.
That's
I honestly
Spencer Rattler, 3rd round pick, probably that probably would have happened.
I wasn't even really on board for Bo Nix all that much. I've grown on it, so don't get me wrong. I've grown on it. I'm excited to see what we're going to see. I
knew it was going to happen. It seems like by and large, Broncos country is rallying around the prospects of its 1st-round quarterback.
100%.
That's what I figured it was going to happen for all the contentious debate about these 6 first-round quarterbacks. I figured once you got one in, everyone was going to get behind, start. I'm not saying everyone's going to buy a jersey. Cecil Lammey bought a jersey.
Cecil Lammey did buy a jersey.
He's got it on display in the background. I guess I need a little Bo Nix. I need something Bo Nix to replace my Let's Ride thing back here.
It's so funny. No matter what, I think Let's Ride will be a phrase here, like used here in Denver. I don't think it'll ever go away. Russell Wilson left his mark with Let's Ride no matter what.
Every time something goes bad, like if the Broncos, if they come out in the first quarter and they have a couple of fumbles and they fall behind 21-0, everyone's gonna be like, "Let's ride." It's gonna be this sarcastic thing.
Mace, I was walking
forever
on the
around
court
here.
after the Nuggets lost in Game 7, and I was like,
Yeah.
let's ride, because now it's time for the Broncos season. Like, that's the point we're at. It's all let's ride. It forever. It will forever be marked here in Denver, no matter what. It's so bad.
Colorado Rockies, let's ride.
Let's ride.
Like Chris Bryant back in the lineup. Let's ride.
But it's the truth. Like, we all say it. It's so funny to me. But we all had such high hopes when it came to Russell Wilson, and they obviously failed. So we were all connected by that one phrase, and I just feel like it's going to live on forever. And I don't know. What else are you looking forward to? Obviously, the quarterbacks is going to be what everybody's really paying attention to. But one other storyline is Courtland Sutton. Not expected to see him out here, but I feel like Broncos country turned on Courtland Sutton, if I'm being honest, Mace, and I think it'll be interesting to see if he does show his face at all.
I'll say this. I saw this on Twitter/X, whatever it's being called, last night. That a fan posted, if Jerry Jeudy was doing what Courtland Sutton was doing, he'd get called every name in the book by the fan base.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think that's true.
100%.
Because by and large, a lot of fans did not like Jerry Jeudy. Like, when he had the spate of drops early as a rookie, like in the court of public opinion, he never recovered. Just listen to how Zach Bye would talk about Jerry Jeudy. It was all, it was like, and he like just kept this list. I mean, it felt like for a lot of people, it got personal with Jerry Jeudy, and yet with Courtland Sutton, certainly hasn't reached that level of enmity. Like, my argument on that is it's strictly a numbers one. You look at a receiver who now in average annual value, his contract is in the low 20s.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's perfectly fair. The production that you're getting and what your outlay is in terms of average annual value, I think it's perfectly fair for both sides.
Well, people People
Go
give
ahead.
me crap, Mace, because I'm always like, there is a thing to being a leader. And people are like, well, he's not paid to be a leader. He's paid to be a good football player. And I'm like, okay, so let's just say Jamal Murray decided not to show up for any individual practices, like just to try and get better to work with Jokic back in the day, okay? I'm like, people would go at Jamal Murray's throat. So why isn't it the exact same thing for Courtland Sutton? He right now is probably one of the most well-known names on this entire team. There is no Justin Simmons there anymore. Like, it's Courtland Sutton. So why isn't he held to the same standard as a lot of other athletes would be if they didn't show up for voluntary practices? It just frustrates me.
Yeah, that's the thing. You said voluntary. Now, I think it's an interesting question to ask, certainly. And right now, when you have two new quarterbacks in there, and Jarrett Stidham having started 2 games, so Courtland Sutton, he missed one of the starts with Stidham. And then when he came back in week 18 in Las Vegas, their timing looked completely off.
Mm-hmm.
So could Courtland Sutton use that time on the practice field working with these quarterbacks? You betcha he could.
He used to travel out to San Diego to work with Russ. So that's like, what's the difference between you coming back here and being able to work on the offense with your young QBs?
I mean, he has the right to do what he's doing. I mean, I that's the thing. I always say, hey, player wants more money. It's your right to go do that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, an action could have a consequence.
Yep.
And the consequence here, and this is where it's interesting. I wrote in my piece at denversports.com about players that have the most on the line at OTAs. I mentioned Brandon Johnson, but I also in that paragraph mentioned guys like Jalen Vigil, Lil Jordan Humphrey. Yep. You have a real interesting crunch developing at wide receiver right now.
Mm-hmm.
You hope Marvin Mims Jr. is better. Does he have more branches on his route tree? If he does, he should play extensively. You brought in Josh Reynolds. Mm-hmm. He's going to play. A wild card is the status of Tim Patrick.
Yep.
If he is all the way back, it's a good problem to have, but he's going to take some reps. And then you have the rookies coming up. Troy Franklin's going to be on the team. And by the way, I like his mindset. He said back at rookie minicamp, he had a chip on the shoulder. Now, I asked him about the number 16 that he's wearing. And he said there was nothing to it. It's just what they had, what they gave him. But I went back and looked up through the draft. 16 receivers were taken ahead of Troy Franklin.
Yes. I know. There has to be a little extra motivation right there.
That's why I think he may come to a point where he keeps 16. When I don't know if he realizes yet exactly how many wide receivers went ahead of him in the draft, because he's talking about the chip on his shoulder about all the teams that passed on him. Yeah. He wasn't expecting to be sitting there on early on day 3, waiting for a call.
Yeah.
Like his draft party was supposed to be day 2. Like no one was expecting that. And certainly the Broncos, when they got to pick 76, they picked Jonah Ellis. And knowing what we know about the Drew Sanders injury and knowing what we know about the state of their edge rushers as a whole, you kind of understand why they went for that position rather than picking Troy Franklin right then and there at 76. It was a roll of the dice that paid off. So good on them.
That's when I look at this wide receiver room and I'm like, a lot of them should be nervous, because if Bo is the week 1 starter somehow, they have that chemistry locked in. Like, who do you go to, right, when you're like, oh crap, I'm kind of stressed out? And let's be honest, game 1, if it is Bo out there against Seattle, he's going to be nervous. And where do you go? You go to the person that you know best. And that is going to be Troy Franklin. If he's out there, which I get it. There's a lot of other big names, a Courtland Sutton, a Tim Patrick, whoever it can be. But if they already have that chemistry and Sean Payton is seeing that, then there's a good chance we could possibly see a few minutes for the rookie.
Quite possibly, yes. Now, the other thing, of course, is if Bo Nix is running this offense effectively, he's throwing to the open guy. Like, and that's the thing. Like, the way this offense is set up when it's designed in its original intent, almost always, even if it's quick, even if it's a hot read, somebody's open.
Yeah.
Somebody's open. You've got guys fanning out, and it's a matter of finding that guy quickly, which is why, going back to rookie minicamp, it was really interesting that a guy who was making a lot of plays was Devon Vele, the 7th round wide receiver out of Utah. And so it's not just Franklin who's pushing from the rookie class. I think it's Devon Vele as well, who could kind of push on the back end. And that's where you get this squeeze. There are going to be some names that are fairly well known among Broncos fans, because if a receiver jumps out in the preseason, you know who they are, right? People know who Lil Jordan Humphrey is because he had that long catch and run last year against the Chargers. There's going to be a name or two who does not make this 53 that people are going to know and be like, whoa. And it's also why, if you see these younger receivers doing well, and those receivers who could be caught in the squeeze, like a Brandon Johnson, Lil Jordan Humphrey, Jalen Virgil, if they flash, I mean, Jalen Virgil looked like he was going to make the team last year before he hurt his knee. And Virgil probably has the best straight line speed of anybody in that receiver room. So this is why, if you're Courtland Sutton, and this is also especially if Tim Patrick is healthy, if he misses this time, he could come back and see that the train has started to leave the station, and he's got to catch up to get on it here.
Yep.
Right?
I'm totally with you, but I'm glad you brought up speed, because I am curious, and I haven't seen a whole lot of Josh Reynolds tape, so I'm not sure his speed. The reviews weren't raving on him by any means, but you lost Jerry Jeudy, who was one of your speedsters. Marvin Mims is in there, but he hasn't been truly like that consistent and one of those guys that, is going to be out there for every single time. Courtland Sutton, not really a big speed guy, in my opinion. Tim Patrick, he might not have it coming back from injury. Does this team have enough speed to compete at that level, or are they lacking that person who can be the lightning on this team?
It's a good question. I think there's hope, but you're not sitting here today.
Mace, I don't like hope. I don't like that answer.
Well, I mean, can Troy Franklin make his quickness translate?
Yeah.
Can Marvin Mims Jr. do more? Of course, we all remember Mims at before the Buffalo game, joking around like his quarterback didn't throw him the ball anyway.
That was the best clip too.
Oh my gosh!
And so many arrows thrown at him.
And it was funny, like the walking it back. I mean, it was all kind of good fun, but like you look back on it, like, gosh, it was dysfunctional as bleep.
Oh
right?
my gosh, no kidding.
So, I mean, can Marvin Mims do more? That's the thing. Like with Mims also, if he can master his route running,
Yeah.
And you can run him on some of those short crosses. And then Bo Nix, he does have the ability to get the ball to a receiver on time, in stride, to lead the receiver. He's got some possibilities with a lot of yardage after the catch. But then also you look around, not just wide receiver. Cecil Lammy and I were talking about this earlier this week on Orange and Blue Today. Blake Watson's a really interesting addition to the running back room because it was he and Bucky Irving who were the two most prolific pass-catching running backs in all of FBS last year. And he's got some dynamic ability in space. Someone, like Jaleel McLaughlin, he's got dynamic ability in space. Imagine what McLaughlin could do if those passes to him in the flat are coming and they're leading him rather than turning around and getting them.
Yeah.
That's what you're hoping for with him. And then a wild card in all this, and again, this is hope. If Greg Dulcich, he lost some weight late last year. One of the things that the Broncos thought is, okay, if we get his weight down, maybe he won't have the same hamstring issues. Well, they got his weight down, and then he had the foot issue that he came up the first practice he was back. So again, that's hope. And I don't know if you go in relying on it, but you can see that there's some speed and dynamic elements there, but it's asking, okay, can Greg Dulcich stay healthy?
It's asking for everything to go right.
Can Marvin Mims make the leap? Can Jalen Virgil make the leap after he comes back from a knee injury? Can Jaleel McLaughlin learn how to block a bit better, or just be an obstruction to where it's not a tell when he's out there?
Yeah.
So you've got these intriguing pieces. Not all of them are going to work out, but can you look at a group of possibilities of Watson, McLaughlin, Dulcich, Mims, Virgil, Franklin? Can you look at those six and say maybe two can become reliable, explosive threats?
Yeah.
I think from those six, you can find two who are going to be really dynamic plus players, maybe even three. And if you get that, I mean, you're kind of playing the odds a little bit. But hey, 333 is a good batting average. 333, 2 out of 6 would be very helpful for this offense and would be very helpful for Sean Payton. And I expect that's how it'll work out.
Well, we will see. Andrew Mason, always a pleasure. Love your work over at denversports.com. And you and Steve are absolutely killing it on Orange and Blue today. So keep it up.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Good to join you.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. Like I said, we will have plenty of coverage from Broncos OTAs today. So make sure you tune in denversports.com for everything you need to know about out there at UC Health Training Center. And we will see you guys later. Bye, everybody. Maybe.